today we'll be discussing Barton 1792.
Thought it'd be fun to do since we haven't talked about Barton at all.
Who Barton? Why Barton? How Barton?
So Barton 1792, the company's been around in one form or the other for forever, for a very long time. So Barton 1792, it's Kentucky distillery. I thought this would be kind of fun because you can I haven't been all over the country, but pretty much
all the places we've been,
all the places we were in Vegas, like
it's pretty easy to find Barton.
Everybody's got a 1792 offering, number one. Number two, you're starting to see store picks, like all these bottles with the exception of the 12 and the sweet wheat, because they don't do those for store picks, but they're all store picks.
You'll see Total Wine drowning in them.
Everybody.
Local liquor stores,
Everybody.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the interesting thing with Barton 1792 is they're owned by Sazerac. Sazerac owns Buffalo Trace. Sazerac owns John J. Bowman.
Sazerac is one of the giants.
They own a ton. Now, the interesting thing about Barton 1792 is they kind of run on a similar way of thinking as like the Buffalo Trace guys do.
What do you mean?
Where their high rye bourbon is like 15% rye. In all these versions, with the exception of the sweet wheat, right? So the 12-year, the single barrel, foolproof, bottled and bond, they use the same mash bill for every offering.
Which is different than Buffalo Trace because they have two mash bills.
They have two different mash
Although
bills.
most distilleries, they only have do they only have one mash bill?
It depends on how many bottles are pumping out or how many different brands are under said distillery's name.
Sure.
Right? So you're going to have some that, let's just take, we'll just take Green River's got more than a few mash bills. Wild Turkey, they've got more than a few. Four Roses, they've got 18,000 mash bills and yeast strains.
That's true. That's one of their advertising.
So it depends on the mash bill. Not the mash bill. Depends on the distillery, honestly. So if you're just kind of new getting into this, like I was many, many moons ago, I bought every single barrel, every bottle and bond, every foolproof, every store pick, right? And,
in my younger days, he sent me off with a bottle of small batch 1792, which is the red label.
Yeah, which is a standard one you see in the stores every day now.
That's a good daily drinker.
Well,
it's like what, $30?
It's something 30, 35, but let me preface it by saying this. When you went to school 6 years ago, roughly, right?
Yeah.
That was sort of before the glut. Remember after the post-2020? After the Ronus, and then you had that huge glut where everybody's buying all the whiskey. Mm-hmm. And we talked about in other episodes, other videos, that distillers have to think, in the 4 to 10 year range out from like right today. Like what's the market going to be in 6 years, 8 years? And we have to put enough whiskey away that's going to mature and then be ready when we want it in 6 or 8 years. Well, after the Ronus,
the lockdown blues.
Everything got bought up because like we talked about before, a bunch of grown men, women sitting at home with nothing to do, and everybody got into whiskey and we're hunting shit. This is all cool. So what happened for me was like you said, I used to drink the small batch. That was just my daily. Mm-hmm. And when you went off to school with it, it was still my daily. And then something happened. Now 2023. Where I bought another small batch just because I was out, drank said small batch, and said, oh, this is not the small batch from a few years ago. And in my mind, I just kind of deduced that, they had to use younger whiskey to supply for the small batch.
Because
they ran out of their aged stock for it. Now, this stuff is typically aged from about 5 years to 7 years, maybe 8 years for some of it, but that's the general window for it. So when they ran out, they had to start using younger whiskey to have the bottles on the shelf.
I remember there being a long period of time where you couldn't find 1792 small batch, let alone any of the
you
other offerings.
You couldn't find it all, but now, thankfully, with the kind of market retracting a little bit, which we should probably buy a small batch just to see if it's gotten back to where it was years prior.
I'll do that next week.
So this is interesting. So out of the whole line, they got the small batch, single barrel, bottle and bond, or switch those two. Full proof, they have a wheated bourbon called the Sweet Wheat, which is right here. They have their hyper aged bourbon, which is their aged 12 year. Out of the lineup, and then they've got another one. I think they have like a high rye one.
Really?
That I've heard was out there or I'd seen floating around. And then I think their latest is a cognac finish.
Which you passed on because
which I passed on.
You're not fond of cognac finishes?
Not straight cognac, and then we're going to get into that in another video with another brand.
Yes.
That's owned by Barton 1792. So now here's what I'll say about this. There is going to be a difference. So their standard stuff is their standard stuff. Their standard bottled and bond. There's not. It's very good.
1792, if memory serves, and it's been a long time since I've drank it, is very straightforward.
It is,
and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, right? I mean, to be honest, I haven't had this in so long. It kind of smells a little Buffalo Tracy, a little bit cherry.
I think very cherry.
Maybe a little banana-y, which isn't uncommon for Barton products to have a little bit of banana in them.
That's a professional term, banana-y.
Yeah, banana-y. Maybe a little like a soft custard.
Yeah.
Almost like a vanilla custard. But this is a store pick from, so this is from Magnum's in Arizona.
Great spot if you've never
So, again, that's going to lead me into my next statement about all these store picks that you see everybody having, right?
All right.
So let me drink this because it's been forever. 125 proof. A little banana nut bread on there now, which isn't uncommon. Barton can be a little nutty, but very good.
Very good.
Right? So now
It's delicious.
Yeah, so here's a caveat. So, excuse me, I just scratched my nose. I hope I'm not bleeding. So, if you're hunting for Barton 1792 stuff, the 12 year is going to be difficult to find. Sweet wheat is typically very difficult. Now, I don't want to talk crap about it, but it's their wheated bourbon. Comes in at 91 proof. And in this day and age, don't shoot the messenger. In this day and age, when you've got Green River wheated, Green River full proof, and we've got a whole crap ton of other wheated bourbons around here, the maker's 7-year cask strength, that's not hard to find.
Although,
not really sure why you.
In 1792's defense, the sweet wheat was around long before a lot of the more interesting wheated whiskeys hit the market.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty low. We've got a backup bottle for this that's unopened, but, every time I've drank it and I've shared it, it's fine. It's good.
I believe I know where you're going with the...
It just wasn't worth the hype.
With the store picks, though.
Yeah.
Stats.
So the store picks are interesting. So you'll see their standard offerings, and then it comes in waves, and you'll see store picks. What's a store pick? It's a pick that the store got a hold of some samples. They picked the sample that they liked, maybe said barrel, or maybe said blend. This is a barrel select, so I'm assuming they selected a barrel of this. And this is what I used to tell people about these store picks. If you've never had that, say you walk into a new liquor store, you walk into Jim Bob's Boozerium, right?
That's a good name.
And he's got a store pick of a 1792 single barrel or a 1792 bottle and bond or a 1792 full proof. If you can try it first, that's always going to be the safe decision.
Of course. Because
some of these picks, and we were lucky enough, God bless him, our buddy Issa Corey in Vegas, which if you're in Vegas, go to Corey's, please. It's a great store. We happened to be in there a couple years ago when they were doing their 1792 full proof pick. Mm-hmm. And the way the picks work is there's usually two different ways. Usually a distributor in your local town, your local city or whatever, gets a crap ton of samples and then offers to their best customers, like, hey, here's 4 samples. If you do you want to do a barrel pick, a pick or whatever? Yes. Okay, here's your samples, pick from them. And so that's what we did, right? He had his 4 bottles. And what's interesting, even though it's the same mash bill, it's the same barrels aged in the same brick house. All 4 of those samples tasted quite different, I thought.
Oh, I thought so too.
When we did
that was the most impressive thing about the 1792 store picks, and it's something that other legacy distillers may occasionally fall short of. The store picks of 1792 that we have sampled have all been like quite different from each other. Whereas other legacy distillers, when they do store picks or allow stores to do store picks, they still end up pretty homogenous.
Pretty homogenized, yeah. And so that was sort of my point of telling that story, is that, when we were doing the sampling and we were taking notes and stuff, and that's a fun thing if nobody's ever done. If you've gotten past it, is it good? Is it not good? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Why do I like it?
There are 4 samples, 2 of which really stood out to us. We ended up selecting the one that the owner of the shop did as well, because we thought it would be more approachable than the one that we liked more, which was really weird and unique.
And that's the thing you got to remember when stores or companies are doing store picks. If you don't know who's doing the picking, you don't know what their mindset is. So when we went through it, took notes, they were all good, went back through all 4, and then I remember I had to sit there and be like, if this was my store, and if I was going to spend, $2,000 to get, said barrel of this whiskey, I want it to be a little bit off profile, but not too far off profile. I want it to be interesting, but not like super nerdy, dorky whiskey guy or whiskey gal nerdy, right? So if you know who's doing the barrel picks, then like if we walked into Corey's today, or if we walked into Magnum's in Arizona today, and they had a store pick of it, I'd just buy it right away, because I trust those guys, because I've had many of their store picks. They're all very good. I could probably say the same with Specs here in Texas.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've had a bad...
What about Total Wine?
I'm trying to think how many store picks of Total Wine stuff we have. I think we can have a couple. I mean, the Four Roses single barrel is their pick, and that was fine. But as we noticed with those samples, depending who's doing the picking of said sample or said barrel, you could get a bottle home and it'd just be like, what the hell were they thinking? Right? So I'm not saying they're all great, but if you can, basic rule of thumb, most mom and pop stores, if it's their pick, they should have a bottle open. Mm-hmm. And I think 9 times out of 10, if you ask them, they will. Then you can try a sample and make sure before you, spend the $50, $60, whatever it costs for one of these bottles. So, but that's kind of the story with Barton. So what I would say is,
who should buy Barton, and which of the line do you most recommend?
So whenever we got the bottle and bond, we always sold out of it pretty quick. Same with the full proof, because full proof's at 125 proof. Mm-hmm. The single barrels, some people in the whiskey world will argue that, maybe the single barrels and the bottled and bonds not a big enough venture, perhaps, to offer store picks of the single barrels and offer store picks of the bottled and bond. But then the story I just told kind of, in my opinion, kind of proves that theory wrong, because it could be a multitude of things. I mean, they could have thought that, their single barrels that they had selected for store picks were really good, and it just so happened the store you bought your pick from, they went, they chose the single barrel that was out in the right field. You don't know, because you don't know how the store owners think unless you personally know them.
Indeed.
But I would say this. I wouldn't hunt the sweet wheat because I know I did forever because I never saw it. And then I got it and I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like
low proof wheated whiskey.
It's a low proof wheated whiskey in 2026, now in April 2026.
Where every store you walk past is drowning in Green River.
Yeah, if you want like good wheated bourbon, especially something that's not watered down to 91 proof or whatever, like you can get a Green River full proof wheated or even the Maker's 7-year. Like I wouldn't necessarily hunt for the sweet wheat.
If you see the 12-year,
the 12-year, you're always going to hunt it just because it's an age statement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have any bottle in here has a 12-year age statement.
Knob Creek.
Yeah, you're right. Knob Creek 12, but I think that's it.
That's it. 12 is
because we got 8-year stuff, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18. The Elijah Craig 18.
You have the Elijah Craig 18.
That Lasso Motel light whiskey that's 18 year. So yeah, there's just
not a lot of 12.
Not a lot of 12 out there. But I mean, I would say if you see the 12, have fun with it, get it. The other ones they're solid, and I think now that sort of the glut's over, I think now what we've talked about before, like a lot of these distillers can like finally take a breath.
Yeah, they can relax.
They're like, okay, we got enough whiskey put away. And then hopefully, like we talked about with the small batch, it can go back to being a little bit older. It's still a really good price. Mm-hmm. And, if you haven't had it, try it. Like I said, hunting these bottles is cool. We got a bunch of them. We got more up there.
Flavor-wise, very straightforward in a great way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you noted, very much a cherry-forward mm-hmm. whiskey.
Yeah.
With some light other fruit.
With some fun bits in there.
Yeah.
And then on the palate, it's slightly different, right? Because I got a little, more banana nut.
To be fair, that's probably off profile, given that it's a store pick.
It could be. And when they got their samples, I forgot to say the other way to do store picks like this is if Barton 1792 calls you up, says, hey,
why don't you come on out?
Why don't you come on out to the distillery and we'll take you through the distillery and you can pick your own barrel. That's the other way, right? But 9 times out of 10,
that'll be the sample route.
It's going to be the sample route just because it's expensive to fly to Kentucky and they're not putting you up. They're just allowing you to go through a sample and buy one of their barrels. They don't have like a hotel for you. I don't think. We've never been on one of those picks, but
maybe they let you sleep in the barn,
Yeah, maybe they're like, maybe we'll split the rental car with you, but you got to sleep in it the night before the pick, and then
if it's behind the Odyssey, you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's really good. It's getting a little nuttier now. Now I think that's the third sip.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a little bit about Barton 1792. Like I said, in Central Texas, we're seeing, other than these two.
Yeah, but all the other of the regular line.
We're starting to see more and more. More just straight bottled and bond.
I've seen the full proof sit on shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Bottled and bond sits. I haven't seen much of the single barrel.
Yeah, they're a little harder to get. And I think this is just this is a regular single barrel. This isn't a store pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I know they do store picks of the single barrels as well. But that's just the standard offering. Those are a little harder to find just because with single barrels, every barrel is going to taste different. You said it's the same mash bill, comes off the still at the same proof, goes in the barrels at the same proof.
Funny how different it ends up.
Same barrels, same rick house. Wildly different. So hopefully that helped with Barton 1792.
This has been a pleasant trip down memory lane. I remember Barton 1792. This is as good as I remember it.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, these are all pretty old bottles, but I'm assuming, like I said, now that the glut's over, they're getting into the little more higher age stuff, and hopefully the picks that people are getting are solid. So if you see one, if you can try it first, try it just to make sure. And there's no hard feelings. I've tried plenty of stuff at stores. I'm like, oh, that's good, but
my style.
But I'm going to go a different route. And most store owners don't care. why they've got a bottle label.
And credit to 1792 that they will let it be so different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just remember with picks. Excuse me. It all depends who's doing it. It all depends what side of the road they're going down. They want it to be
approachable.
Yeah.
A little off profile.
Yeah, but not too off profile.
Or really off profile.
Or we've got a couple. I think I wrote one of those. I don't know if it was that one or one of these, but I wrote in my notes when we tasted it. I'm like, oh, this is nerd whiskey. They picked it.
I do remember
for dorks like me. Like, oh, this is wild and it's got all this different stuff. But just the standard casual 1792 fan would drink that and go, oh no,
this bottle has turned.
That doesn't taste like the small batch I'm used to. And sometimes that's the point.